Yesterday, everybody knows the date, was Eir. What's Eir? Some people celebrate and say Hallel, and some people fast that day. Now, what is the approach of Rabbi Nesieni, Nesieh Chabad the Roy Sayhem, and what is the Rebbe's Shitta in this whole Zionist movement, the whole Medina Yisrael? How is the look, the approach of the Rebbe, of the Rabbayim on this Indian? In the end, we're going to touch a mashi on the votes which goes now through the World Zionist Organization, which some people say you should vote, some people shouldn't vote. Touch on it on a drop, but basically, first I want to make a clarity, which is a very, very important topic, because a lot by us Anash totally got it wrong, and mitzad some things which they saw the Rebbe did and said, they got it wrong, the whole shit, and they took niks Zionism, and they went way, way, way far. Heppich das von dem Rebbe. Was the Rebbe b'shatoi, what when rausgegangen begehren we genis. So therefore I want to make clarity a little bit in this Nekida. We see by the Rebbe from one side, we see radical kitzonischdige sayings against the Zionist movement. Other side, we see the Rebbe supported that you shouldn't give, not support, the Rebbe fought that you shouldn't give back Stochim. The Rebbe was Mekarev, and took for Yechidas, or even other times people which were involved in the government of Israel. The Rebbe was that hold that if a person does not learn in yeshiva, a married person which does not learn in yeshiva should join the army if it's in a matzav that he could it's kosher for b'chinas Yiddishkeit. If it's in a mesgeres, which is Yiddishkeit, then if you don't learn, then you should go there. The Rebbe holds that a bocher tunish guy in military. So there's a big, a big, so to speak. But if you look at it, it's a steers. What do we know about the Rebbe's saying in the Rebbe's Nekida, this Nekida of the Zionist movement? Now, we all know the famous, the Rebbe Reshab was I don't know how you say it, but a Misnagid Charif. Huh? No, a Misnagid Charif. Is worse than Satmar. Strongly opposed the Zionist movement, even if it would have been a frum government. Very sharp, and it's printed. This whole thing is printed. Everybody can take it out in Kinter Semayin, in the Hagdum of Kinter Semayin. There's a very sharp letters, and the Rebbe Reshab's movement, Shitta. There was once a Yid. His name was Rebbe Yosef Scheinberger. A lot of people heard of him. He was the maskir for the Aida Achraydes, and he used to come to America for money and other things, and he went into Yechidus the Rebbe more than once, and he once asked the Rebbe, why did the Rebbe ban the Rebbe Reshab's Shitta? Why did the Rebbe ban? The Rebbe Reshab was a big Knoi, and the Rebbe is not a big Knoi. And the Rebbe answered him, this is a story which I heard from Chaim Shulam Dash. I heard it from other sources also, but I heard it from Chaim Shulam Dash. That's a very real source, because he knew Yosef L'Shaim again on a personal level. And the Rebbe asked him, what are you talking about? We just recently printed over the Kinter Semayin with the Hagduma, and all the people should know and understand that this whole shit is Achshav, the same as it was once. What are you talking about? Not only that, there's such thing as the Gimel Shvius. Shule Shvius. Now, if you take the Vayol Moshe, and you see a lot of the first part, the third part of the Sefer is regarding the Shule Shvius. Now, Satmaruf writes the Shol HaShvi lav dafka is halacha. It's a Indian, a rochtige Indian, and it's very harsh, but it's nicht kan halacha psike. In the Rebbeim, the Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe Shmus Eiden, and the Rebbe holds halacha, it's a mechayev. The Gimel HaShvi is a mechayev. The mechloekes from Gedoyle Aposkim, if it's a mechayev or not. There was a Shem Shmiel, there was a lot of other Gedoyle Aposkim which hold it's not mechayev, bechlal. First of all, some say it's only it's a shvia. The whole Shir Hashirim, Mishbati Eschem, is only, the Rambam says, in Drish. But even the poskim which say it is a lochadig as a concept, there's a lot of poskim which hold that the three shvias go together. The first one of the shvias is Klal Yisrael should not be moirid be'imas and go to Yisrael against the wishes of the nations. Then there's another shvua for the nations that they shouldn't suppress Klal Yisrael very harsh. So a lot of poskim hold that it's connected, these three. If the Goyim are suppressing Klal Yisrael very hard, then the other Shvi is also null and void. The Rebbe, Rabbaim, Rabbi Sani did not hold like that. The hold is Shvi is Machayev, and it's also to have a Medina, a Yiddish Medina, even if it's from, everything is from. It's not secular. From Zionism, Hadusis, Mizrachist, whatever it should be, it's also Batachlas HaYichid. Not only that, the Rebbe went a step further, and Tov Shemim Aleph, the Rebbe met with the Sadigere Rebbe. And the Sadigere Rebbe said for the Rebbe that basically there's no such thing as the Shol HaShvi is out of this today's day, because all the nations, the United Nations, agreed that Klal Yisrael may have, that the Eden can have a Medina. So there's no such thing as Shol HaShvi, which a lot of contemporary poskim hold like that. And the Rebbe answered them, if this is your whole shit that it's not a problem to Shol HaShvi because the nations agree that you should have a nation, then tomorrow the United Nations is going to vote against this whole Jewish state, and then you're back to square one. So the Rebbe said, no. The only reason why I hold that today's day Medina Yisrael has to exist is als Kich Nefesh. Kich Nefesh, since Klal Yisrael is over there, you cannot just say, like some Kitzoinim wants to say, you just give back the keys, and the Varkazeh. You give back the keys, you have October 7th. We know also that B'shas v'si geworden Medina Yisrael, 1948, yeah, it's published in printed Yemai Melech. The day which was the vote was that it should become a Jewish state. I don't think I remember who the guys. One of the Chassidim, all the Chassidim, saw the Rebbe was zikocht. When around 770, zikocht. You know, is zikocht? You know, hyped, not hyped. Ich weiß. What? Worked up. So he went over to the Rebbe. You know, why are you so zikocht? You know why? He said, Baruch Hashem. You know, we got the votes. So the Rebbe says, on this we waited 2,000 years. This is the thing which we saw for 2,000 years to get this. This is what we have. This is it. Okay, but Rebbe is giving a minus. It wasn't a plus. It was a big simcha. The people were dancing in the streets and saying Hallel. Rebbe is great. Do something. As we know the famous letter which the Rebbe wrote for the Nusi of Medina Yisrael Ben Tzvi. And the Rebbe did not title him Nusi Medina Yisrael. And he wrote to the Rebbe, Hayitochen, you know, my high. And the famous answer is the Rebbe answered him, that's the language. From when I went to Cheder, and even before that, I started to fantasizing and imagining, that's the real word, imagining how the Gila Asida is going to be. Gila Achran, which is going to be such a Gila, we understand, if we're going to say it was worth the 2,000 years being in exile in Golas, and we're going to understand the whole Golas. And over there, then it's going to be a Melech Yisrael, which was going to be Nusi Yisrael. And therefore, when I give a look at Medina Yisrael, I don't have the heart, and I cannot bring myself to write a new Nusi, because that's not a Nusi. And he wrote it him in the face. You know, which you are still in Golas, and we're still suffering, I cannot do it. I'm sorry. So we get a bit of the picture of the Rebbe Shitta. The Rebbe never said on Eretz Yisrael, Medina Yisrael. This doesn't exist. Medina Yisrael, this word wasn't in the Rebbe's mouth. It was Eretz HaKodesh, Eretz Yisrael. And they asked the Rebbe why. And the Rebbe has a letter. Again, everything is documented. There was a letter with the Rebbe shop. That's not the name. Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Yisrael, was Rebbe schon gegeben. And, dreinsch kein Kopf. Never. Medina Yisrael is nicht gewesen, existiert nicht. Not only that, there was, we all know, Lubavitch Yeshiva was a lot of years we did not have the Nasis of the Rebbe. The Rebbe had the Nasis of Yeshiva, Lubavitch Yeshiva, but there was a dinner which, in order to how do you say, to one of the Nadvunam, to satisfy him, and he demanded he should sing the Tikva by the dinner, yeah. And once the Rebbe heard that there was sung by the Tikva by the dinner, the Rebbe says, I'm sorry, I don't want to have a shaykh with this yeshiva. And the Rebbe took off the Nasiyas for years. It took years, they should beg, and the Rebbe with conditions, they put it back. So again, the Rebbe was radical against the Zionist movement. Radical. Nicht normal.
Reading it, Israel politics here.
There's no politics.
The Friedrich Rebbe once said, the Rebbe was a big supporter of Tir Karta. Let me bring it to your attention. Big supporter. How do I know? I know it because I have the letters of Rebbe Riel Zimmer. Riel Zimmer was the Kenui number one. And the Rebbe was a big supporter. Not only the Rebbe was a big supporter, he wrote a whole cipher against Medina Yisrael, which is called, it's in 3 languages. For Hebrew it's called the Yehadas Va Medina. And in Yiddish it's called the Teure in Yidentum, the Medina and the Yidentum. And there's also in English. Gimel Shoynes. And who sponsored the publication of it? Who sponsored it? Who paid for it? In the Rebbe. He paid for it. And not only that, the Rebbe wrote for him before he was finished with the book. The Rebbe wrote over and said, Rebbe Riel, it's not sharp enough. But I'm not going to make you write it over because it's wichtig, you should publish it. The Rebbe said, it's not sharp enough. And believe me, I know this book, I have it. It's sharp, Shnaimun. So this Riel Zimmer writes, he had Yechidus with the Rebbe, and he writes letters to the Tuvi Bloy, what he had with Yechidus, fascinating Yechidus. Some are planted, but it was edited by the Bloy family. But I have the original. I have made the Chassidish Gnaiva years ago, and the family, I don't know. He wrote it to Tuvi Bloy. He wrote, Tuvi is his Talmud. He was Makar of Tuvi to Chabad. He was a radical against Zionist movement, and he came to the Rebbe's Gdingen. And then he went out and said, wow, I never saw a person which he looked such a big Zionist, such a big Kenui, and became a Lubavitcher. And he was the first person who translated Tanya in Yiddish. He knew 17 languages. He was a translator in the United Nations, for the United Nations. So he writes that the Rebbe said, the Tir Karta I like. And I support that because they're real. They don't take anything from the Medina, they don't take any money, they don't take personal. But the people who are Kenuim, and when it comes to their personal lives, they take all kind of money. So he writes, the Rebbe was against. He had a lot of nice, cute things which he writes. The guy was saying up with the Rebbe. But I could put him. At least you see the mind of the Rebbe. Shitfas. You should go into the government. The Rebbe was against. He got them atunish.
The current Natural characters, they already.
That's way off because now they're going with the Arab. This Avada. We're talking about the Bamlam Bloy, which the Rebbe was absandish. So therefore, first of all, is Hepach Rutzen in Kavuna from the Rebbe Bechlal. Bechlal, as we should take part in anything which has to do with politics and supporting any. So therefore, the whole thing of taking Ben Gvir should come in 770 on the Rebbe stage, should give a drosha, is Hepach from Kuvat Chabad, Hepach the roots from the Rebbe. We were never into politics, and there's no justification what they did. And so I have to be a big machua. And I don't understand how much the Siga lost. Not only him, even a few months later was Galant. We are, Ayid wants to come in 770, we are open for everybody. But giving a platform for just because he holds of not giving back Shtochim, but he has other things which is against the Rebbe Shita. He goes out to Harabais, which is against the Rebbe Shita. Now again, ich kann nicht on his personal. Ich meine aber zu sagen, the Rebbe is given a Knui, the Rebbe was against Zionist movement. Von anderer Seite, as I mentioned before, is the Rebbe given as he supported in Etzisol, Keneged Achzur Shtuchim. The Rebbe supported when there was a war, they should go at the Messig. The Rebbe was again, if a person doesn't learn and he's married and it's a masgeres that he could be erlich in the mitzvah, he should go. He has no justification. So how does this work together? The answer is very simple, which the Rebbe himself said. There was a story, there's a Yid, his name was Chaim Zimmerman. Chaim Zimmerman was a big Ili, and he wrote on the ganze Indian of Kavatarich. There was a big machloek zwischen the contemporary poskim. If you go from there to Japan, where you hold Shabbos, and that's one of the reasons why we are not going to 30 days clear, but Hawaii, there's no a fremme Yid hot shkalech on Tzazan of Shabbos. That's one of the reasons, because there's a big problem if it's Shabbos or it's Sunday. So therefore, stay away. Now he wrote on the shitta. So there was a big machloikas. The Chazon Ish has one shitta. A lot of shit. There was one shitta which called or Mendel Kasha. Mendel Kasha was basically a gerach choset. He gave out the Torah Shleim, which the Rebbe quotes constantly, and he had a different shitta. Chaim Zimmerman had a third shitta, and the Rebbe's shitta was like the Chaim Zimmerman shitta. And Chaim Zimmerman wrote against Mendel Kasha below the belt, very sharp. And the Rebbe, when he came into the Chiddush of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked him, "Why did you write so personal, so sharp?" So he said that the Rebbe halt as a pekoires, as a koifer. So the Rebbe, ich halt as a koifer, ich halt zan shittas is shittas kfira. None of this on the Kavatarich. The Rebbe holds, and let's make it clear, and that's one of the biggest mistakes which we have. The Chabad today's day was happenished. The Rebbe gehalten, es halte de Gile is kfira mamash. Kfira means against Torah. Anybody who says Medina Yisrael as a Medina is a beginning of the Geula, that's a part of the Geula, is Kfira Gumar. Kfira Gumar. The Rebbe explains it. Modern Orthodox. Kfira Gumar. Yeah. Zionism, the Rebbe halted the shit is Hepech Torah. Why? The Rebbe says the Rambam writes exactly how the Geula is going to come, and according to the Rambam, it cannot be the way it is. The Rambam says clearly, and there's no Rishon which argues with the Rambam that you cannot say, I want to pass against other. So everybody agrees with the Rambam. So you pass against the Rambam, you pass against Torah, and therefore it's Kfira. So the Rebbe Kasha holds that it's a Schalta the Gil he wrote, and it's Sefer of Kifa Gdoila.
Nothing to do with the Kavatari.
Not to do with Kavatari. So he says to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, why did you write on the Kavatari so harsh on him? So he said to the Rebbe, the Rebbe halt as a so the Rebbe is a koifer. The Ryan was halt as Chaltagil is Kvira. Another thing, the Rebbe said once, ich bin against Shittas, nicht against Menschen. Over here comes the Nikida. I'm against Shittas, and I'm not against a person. That's why, even you have a Zionist Nusi or a president or Shazar or whatever it should be, ain't personally, on a personal level, something else. Aber ich kann schon mal schon. Wo ist halt, ist halt. Das war ich nach Mekarav, ich bin Mekarav, echte Kafra. Anything which had to do with the rhyme, with the ideology of Zionism, would have a vivius against. So again, anything which had to do with the rhyme of Zionism, which says, I agree with the rhyme of Zionism, was the Rebbe against. So therefore, flags was ungefragt. I remember the first Kinnis Shlichim I was, when I became a Shliach, and it was, they make every year new programs. Then there was a program that all the children from all the cities, by the song, they came in with their flags. They came in the flags with their own this. Israel had no flag. There's no such as Israeli flag. No such thing. And I was so spooled. I got fascinated. You know, anything which had to do with the Ryan Nazioni as the Medina is going ungefragt. Why? Because Zionism, Zionism, is going echt kvire gemire. Not because it was Chalta de Gila. Because if you ever read, and you shouldn't read it, but if you ever read the Ryan of the forefathers of Zionists, Chetchenish Herzl, he himself was going to the Vatican and said, we are ready to convert everybody, all Jews to Christianity, we should have a state. Kvire gemire. But all the shittas of Ryan Etzioni was that we, Klal Yisrael, with Torah Shkashayches. The Rebbe gave Torah for Klal Yisrael in order. How do you make a Yid which doesn't have, we're all over in the Golas, how do you connect them together? How do you make a family should hold connect together? So you have to have something to stick together. What is the sticking together? They have a Torah. We don't need the Torah be'etzah. We need a Torah only to stick Klal Yisrael together because we are in Gulas. If we have a a Medina, if we have a country, we have a language, we are Kala Goyim by Yisrael, we don't need Torah mitzvahs. Ich darf es nicht schauen. In some zusammen, in some eigen, some a degel, in some a language, in some a hymnon, a anthem, in some alles, in some a Medina. Ich darf steuern, war frozen throwing garbage. And those again the shit which you could see. You can read, if you read a little bit, what was their shit, was included as their kid. Ich sage nicht, the Zionism is schon auch verwassert geworden, you know. Once, by the Megillas Hatzma'ah, they didn't want to write Baruch Hashem. So they gemacht abshurim with the frimim. They wrote serious rule. What serious rule? Serious rule could be zur Starkheit von Yisrael. It could be der Boine Schleune. So the mindset, and therefore anything which had to do with the business Yisrael, that was against all the way, fully, in sharp adasof. We still come with Medina Yisrael now as it is like this. The Medina is a de facto eros over here. It's a mukam which thousands of Yidden got refuge of after the war. As the Rashag asked the Belzeruf, the Friedrich Rebbe, Rashag was Bechai from the Friedrich Rebbe, visited Israel, and he went to Bazich, the Friedrich Rebbe told him he should go Bazich, the Baron Belzer, and ask what his shit is on it. And the Belzeruf answers for the Rashag, which is printed also again in the Belzer sources. The Friedrich Rebbe, the Belzeruf answers for the Rashag, that Rabbeinu Shalom hat uns gegeben noch ein Krieg, a battle, in so man sich können herupleigen. That means, such Kashim Shai, in some in Gulas, in some Vater in Gulas, in our words Gulas, because Gulas between Yidden is the words Gulas. In some Vater in Gulas, such Kashim Shai mit kan Gulas mit kan Gila. Rabbeinu Shalom gave us, after the war, we should have a place we should, he gave Kiryas Yoel, that you should sit, you can have your own community. He gave Kings for the Lubavitcher and Kranes for the Lubavitcher, and he gave for Yidden that Yisrael a place which they can sit down in Golas with all those, and we have to watch it because it's Pekich Nefesh. If anything, we lower our standards in Shmira, is Askuna. So therefore, you cannot give back Shtochim because Askuna. They'll come and take us, and they make October 11. Therefore, you have to go in Tzava. If it's Masgeras that you don't learn, and it's Hayidish Masgeras, okay, you have to watch. Not only in Etzisrol. If in Monroe, if the Goyim wants to come into Monroe and want to kill Yidden, you have to have a Shmira, you have to have a Shomram, you have to have guns, Uzis, and you have to put this.
We don't always get said, but it's Medina, and you live there. There's a Choko that you have to go through.
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Koko din de begin in Etzisrol is nicht du as a Mezach. Mechaber Remu in Chashmishpet. Din Mechise do in Chislurs and Etzisrol Bechal nicht. It's a whole siga, but this is the reason. Because if din in the Mechise, then the Bochum has to also go. The din in the Mechise also has to. Over Etzisrol? You have to pay if not you go to jail.
If you can get around.
I don't know. Ich will nicht lange in this. You know, let me stop over here. This is a guy. I can put him some mile. Let me tell you guys the Nikida. Anything with such a team with Ryan at Zionis, with the exception of the Ryan, is Babarem given ugefragt totally. That's why the Kintres mine is not relevant. Anything which has to do with the symbolity of the Medina flags, anthem. That's what a few years ago they wanted to give a Lubavitcher Shlucha. They wanted to give their Shishur Masua, and the Rebbe went against it. Lipschitz, yeah. What? Before Hayir, was Mechaber to put on a flame. I don't know exactly. Yoina will explain it. A torch.
They do every year by the Yom Ha'atzmaut. They give COVID to mention that they did something special. And Madlikim or as the Greeks.
Yeah, and the Mechaber given a Shlucha, Lipschitz, and the Rebbe says you cannot take it because that's already identifying with this. Anything we should not identifying with the Rayon is the Rebbe given aggressor ekonui, because again, as I mentioned, the Rebbe held that Shivul Shvius exists. The Rebbe holds that Schalta de Gil is Kfir Mamash. The Rebbe was, so therefore that was ugefragt. Anything which has nothing to do with the Rayon, de facto, we have a Medina. That means we have a country, and we have to protect Yidden, and we have to be able to learn. We have to put in, people should go in the Knesset because we have to protect Torah, mitzvahs, that's Take in a Mamshula Drebbegal is a problem. Because then you have to achrayis mit the machlutas. Aber Akapunem, benoisig wir noch eine Sache für the Rebbe gehalten, we als Chabad are not into politics. This is a very important thing. And that was the biggest mistake why we bring the Chavra Knesset and Sam to talk, because you identify with a party. You identify with the Dus. Ich kann schon nicht daran in the Heilige Zionis, but the Rebbe was against politics. The beautiful problems it makes for Futzes and Mayunas. The one time which we went beschliches from the Rebbe with the Gide, we had a lot of problems. But then, we got the Rebbe, we have to go because Kavod Chassidus. But we should bring people which is hepech in their shitta and hepech in the zach, which in identify with a party is hepech the kavuna from the Rebbe. So, Mamai do not gedenken. So therefore, when it comes to going protests against giving back Stochem, and if you want to go, one thing, but holding an Israeli flag, why? Hast du kein Recht? In the all interviews which Lubavitch Ingelat doing, reden, ma gemacht der verwischacht Kili, as rigem Stuche meint, as Medina Israel, in a lot of people do not happen this division. Happen is that der heilig is hepech gewonnen for them, maybe the Satmaruf. If anybody wants to hear clearer the Rebbe Shitta, there is a lot of letters which I hope one day let's say in print. But there's Rebbe Yoel's famous 2 letters which he wrote. It's called Igres Man Chucham. It's printed. Shloiber Shisoy. I had to have it already 40 years. But there was a group of poor Choshvi Ingelait, which ungefähr from Bechai from Rebbe Yoel. And they printed it, and it was printed 4 or 5 Madiras with additions. Rebbe Yoel was against it, but who asks him? And it's good that you didn't ask him. It's very important letters. And over there you can have, yeah, exactly. And over here you have a lot of clarity of the Rebbe Shitta. So do that man gedenkt noch mal. The Rebbe is pikir nefesh. Hell van Jiden. A Soldat was is gefallen, was is gefallen oder was is injured, darf man mal andere machen mal mit. All these things, weil gestanden la mishmet far Jiden. Anything which comes mit rein is strife. Now another thing, one more thing. Before I'll get to the punchline. Chabad is not identified with politics. Bechlal. Chabad is against, the Rebbe zut etliche Mol. There was a Shaul Schiff, which asked the Rebbe why shouldn't, he was not a tzeufer. Yeah? He asked the Rebbe why shouldn't Chabad participate in the world Zionist movement years ago. And then the Rebbe answered him, Denikida. Chabad can sich identifying with a political move. So therefore, he wanted the Rebbe should come out and was going to vote around more from deputies. Automatically, then you can make a change. And the Rebbe says Chabad cannot come out because that's politics. In the Skirv Rechoikim, in the Nishkan politics, we don't want to get identified else Skirv Rechoikim. This is what the Rebbe answered.
I think what the Rebbe used also to say is when you go with one party, you're going against the other parties. Could be. Weiß ich. Der Rebbe ist gehalten, sich identifying in der Rausung der Rebbe geämpft. So now, anything which has to do, Chabad cannot come out in public, and anything which has to do with politics, because we don't identify. Benoist, was will es sein Kusche? It's a happy from the Rebbe Shit, it's die steht von Kirche Rechoikim. In der Indien is Kirche Rechoikim, but not Zahn of politics. So now let's just finish up regarding the today's day. Should you vote or could you vote in the World Zionist Organization or not? Now, first of all, let's make it clear. There's no such a thing as a Chabad Ruf should come out and say, you should go vote. It's no, as I mentioned, just. Even on the issue, there's no such a thing as you should say you should go vote, because automatically you mix together Chabad and politics, which the Rebbe wrote before the Shol Shif, as Ministers. If somebody asks me privately, could I go and vote for them? What should be the answer? So now it's like this. There are some Rabbonim which want to say that you cannot vote because you have to agree to the platform of the Jerusalem platform, and the Jerusalem platform is Sapach HaTorah. I went over the new Jerusalem platform this year. They made it before the election they make new platform. I went over carefully 3 or 4 times. I don't see anything over there which you cannot. Rebbe Yoel, they asked Rebbe Yoel, one of the questions they asked Rebbe Yoel, the Rebbe hold that means voting for the Knesset. So when you vote for the Knesset, automatically you are voting that the Chavra Knesset has to give a swearing or giving a munim, a pledge allegiance
to the state and their laws. So how could you do it? And Rebbe Yoel got the masber that anything which you could say on two ways, it could be a pledge allegiance to Eretz Yisrael, and to the chikim means chikai Torah is Eretz Yisrael, maser, stremas, maser. So whenever it's not clear cut, is in yeah. Lamasa, if you go through the Jerusalem, I don't see things which is clear cut, which is a problem. I don't see amazing problems a clear cut. But my little a person wants to go. Ich sehe nicht kein größer issue damit. Benoisov, there's a letter which surfaced lately from the Rebbe, and one of Rabbi Bronstein, which he was involved heavily in the World Zionist Organization, asked the Rebbe the same question: why don't Chabad or make more Frum Yidden come in and take over? Because we have to understand one thing: what is the World Zionist? World Zionist Organization is a nothing. Is an organization which is a fundraising organization. They fundraise over $1 billion a year, which is sent to Eretz Yisrael. And they divide it for Ken Kemas, what to give land for. There's 4 or 5 things which they give. So it's a money making. And if you have more the positions, or America, you could give, you have more influence on the government. So therefore, he asked the Rebbe, why shouldn't you move? A lot of Frumin should come in, not Chabad, but why shouldn't a lot of? The Rebbe answered, will it make a difference? That means you'll have a couple of from Eden who's going to vote. Will it make a difference? So to merit, you have the Reform, the Conservative, a big community. Then, so a student got 100,000 Yidden, let's say, which you it's not as we shop the Rebbe. Now my question was the first thing I'm in it. What's about with the whole project, the Jerusalem project? The Rebbe sucht nicht kein Wort, dass du ein Problem mit seiner... In der Rebbe hat sich geschämt zu sagen, als mit auf Chaspenen, that you believe in that, then it's kfira. Du sucht der Rebbe a practical Sach. And it was right. Years ago, there was no point of pushing in Jewish from Dapatit, the members, because it didn't make a difference. Nowadays, when the Reform and the Conservative are very, very, very schwach, they're getting schwach and schwacher, the Fruma have a big chance to come in. It's interesting, I don't know exactly the politics, but last time the Gida was heavily, you should vote. This year they backed out. I don't know why.
I don't understand. It's the changes they made in the Jerusalem project.
Look at the changes with the made in Jerusalem. It's much more favasa than it was one day.
No, there are certain things that the idea that you have to support because of the whole fight that's going on with the Bachram, and they're saying you have to support everyone, so it's a clash. Because one of the changes they made in the Jerusalem project that you have to support, you should support all youth who go to the IDF, and which sounds including Bachram.
Okay.
And because of the current fight that they're having right now with the
okay, Kanza, that was the reason. Yeah. But last time that Gidesru was about in power. But soft today's day when the Nishnadus nowadays was lately a report that there was a lot of Pashkevil in Israel that you shouldn't go vote for Jerusalem. It's Zionism. They realized they got information that who pays for this? The conservative movement. They don't want the Fruma should come in and take over as they do everywhere when they come into community and they eventually take over, yeah? Which is going to happen anyways. But Akapunam, so what did they do? They have ungeteen in the Carter clothing and they write Chaz v'shulam, So therefore, they don't want it. So again, should any Rav Chabad come out, you should go with them? No. Rav Chabad mishtechlishe politics and cannot say clearly that you should go vote. We stay away. A person for itself, a problem to vote, I don't see a big problem, but I feel since as the Gide backed out and a lot of Fremen backed out, is wieder do the Rebbe's shit, which the Rebbe said, would you make a difference or not? I'm not sure that our vote will make a big difference because last time, 5 years ago, the Fruma Oilam was heavily involved in the elections. This time, I don't know if it makes a difference. So that's up to everybody.
The nomen of the organization is Zionism.
Sivus? World Zionist Organization? No. Zionist wat man gekend aus Schleim gebracht mit dem Tuschif. Okay, mit dem suche ich das. Sie kennen nicht an, als alle Babes Ruhe, sie geben ab Sack, as you should go vote for them.